Thank you to Preserve Gold for being a sponsor of our Newsmax podcast. Thinking about investing in physical gold or silver but not sure who you should trust? The folks at Preserve Gold are the perfect partner and highly rated for all your precious metal needs. Text the word DAILY to 50505 and get up to $10,000 in free gold and silver, and to learn more today from Preserve Gold.
All right, happy Monday and welcome to the Newsmax Daily for May 20th, 2024. 5/20/24 if you're taking notes. It's a big day in many ways. Today is National Rescue Dog Day, which speaks for itself, and kudos to you if you have rescued a dog. If not, at least help support a local shelter or organization with a donation. Hope you had a fantastic weekend doing what you love to do. It is not a happy Monday in Denver. I know that. The defending champion Nuggets blew a big lead and were eliminated from the NBA playoffs last night after the Avalanche were eliminated from the NHL playoffs. Double whammy. In New York, the Knickerbockers were eliminated, but the Rangers are in the conference finals against Florida. That will start later this week. The Boston Celtics are in the finals against Indiana, who beat the Knicks, and Dallas has both the Mavericks and Stars still in their respective playoffs, moving into the conference finals. So congratulations to all involved. Thank you to the lovely and talented Kay Smythe from the Daily Caller for filling in last week while I was on vacation. I'm sure you enjoyed her commentary and coverage. One of the big headlines today is the overnight helicopter crash in Iran that killed the president of Iran, the foreign minister, and several others. There's also plenty of news from the weekend to cover, and I have to mention at least one or two things from last week since I wasn't here. This caught my attention, even though I was in Vegas, where you quickly become, completely disconnected, right? New York City Mayor Eric Adams. You probably heard about this, right? Adams suggested giving illegal migrants jobs as lifeguards because, quote, they are good swimmers. Well, as ridiculous as that is to begin with, just imagine if any Republican anywhere had said anything like that. Number two, most of them are just walking across the border, aren't they? They're not swimming. And number three, in New York, lifeguards work like 3 months out of the year, right? The summer is from Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's about it. Maybe 4 months, including getting ready for the season. And what about the Biden administration and especially MSNBC trying to sell to the American people that President Biden challenged Donald Trump to a debate? That was the big headline. President Biden has challenged former President Trump. How about Joe finally responded to Trump's challenge, but only on the network of his choice or their choice with anti-Trump moderators, and only if Trump's microphone could be turned off. So the debate over the presidential debate, especially after some of Donald Trump's comments at the NRA convention this Saturday, continues today, as does the media frenzy over Trump's New York trial, which resumed this morning. First, in case you missed it over the weekend, I'll give you some of Trump's speech at the annual NRA convention.
Crooked Joe has a 40-year record of trying to rip firearms out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. He's always wanted to do that. No IQ, low. He's a low IQ individual, our president. Think of this. We have a low IQ individual as our president, and he's dealing with steel. He's dealing with President Xi. We will start negotiation now. There's no games. He's dealing with Putin. He's dealing with Kim Jong-un. He's dealing with Macron of France. That's another one. He charged our companies 25% tax. I said to Mnuchin and the other people, go and tell them we're not going to have our companies pay 25% tax to France. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? I said, you have a week. You get them to withdraw that tax immediately. And they came back and they said, it doesn't work. I said, you have another day and then I'll make a call. And they came back and they said, we can't do it. They've already passed it. I said, that's okay. Let me go get me Emmanuel Macron of France. Please get me. You don't mind if I go off the cuff for these stupid teleprompters, do you? Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a frickin' teleprompter? Isn't that nice?
And this is what he had to say about the presidential debates.
You know, fake Tapper is going to be one of the people. But they said to me the other day, sir, CNN with fake Tap, and he is a fake, but let's see how he does. I think he's under a lot of pressure, to be fair. But fake Tapper is going to be heading up the team that interrogates you. I said, that's okay. I accept the debate. I accept it. You know why? Because nobody thought he was going to debate. They didn't think I'd accept it. I accept. Then another one called. They put out another one. I said, I accept. They didn't even tell me where it was, who it was. I didn't care. What the hell difference does it make? I mean, you know. So we did something that they were shocked at. They had no idea that, you know, they figured, well, we're not going to do CNN, and we're not going to have Tapper be the guy. And we're not going to have other people involved in that show that, you know, they thought there was no negotiation. I said, I accept anything you want. Let's debate. And now they're shocked. They don't know what the hell to do because they have a debate. But just remember this. We'll go back and finish. You know, there is a genius to what I'm doing. You do know that. I go from here to there, and it all comes back into a beautiful picture. You know, it really, do you notice? It all comes back into a beautiful picture, great memory. It's a beautiful thing. But remember what they're going to do. If this horrible, low IQ individual who's representing us, if this horrible person who's done such a bad job, worst president in history by far, if this horrible individual finishes the debate, which I think he will, if he's standing, they'll say it was a brilliant performance. It was a brilliant performance. They've never seen anything like it. Very much reminiscent of the days of FDR. You know, FDR had a beautiful patrician voice, magnificent voice, great debater, very smart man. You know, FDR, 16 years, almost 16 years. He was 4-term. I don't know. Are we going to be considered 3-term or 2-term? You tell me. Ronnie, what do you think? Are we 3-term or 2-term if we win? But think of it. They're going to say, wonderful. Now, he did that State of the Union the other day. He was high as a kite. So I think we should call for drug tests on the debate. Yeah? We're going to call for drug tests.
Donald Trump at the NRA convention in Dallas on Saturday. And this is Rob Finnerty, co-host of Wake Up America on Newsmax.
I think this is a trap for Donald Trump. I think it's a total setup. I don't think there's any way that Dana Bash and Jake Tapper can be remotely impartial. Those two moderating this debate would be like if you said, okay, Newsmax has got the debate and Rob and Greg Kelly are going to be moderating. The reaction would be exactly the same. It is exactly the same. CNN is Newsmax, but on the other side. I don't know why Donald Trump is walking into this trap, but this is a win across the board for Joe Biden, and I think it'll be a win for him late next month as well on the debate stage. And I say that only because when the bar is as low as it is, as long as he doesn't fall asleep on stage or literally collapse on the stage, he will win the day. I don't know why Trump agreed to this. I'll give each of you 15 seconds. That's going to set up our next segment at the top of the hour. Mark, to you first.
I think most of what Donald Trump agreed to was fine. I think agreeing to let CNN host the debate borders on insanity.
Hogan?
I don't like any of the parameters around this whole thing, but the great part about Donald Trump is he's like, screw it, I don't care. I'm going in, I'm debating this guy, I have better policies, this guy's a failure, and I'm going to prove it to the world. I would watch, though, if Joe Biden does the faceplant you think he's going to do, both physically and or mentally. It's in June. There's a chance those Democrats could make a switch before the convention.
I heard you say that 2 nights ago on Leventhal with Rick Gates. I think that's brilliant, Hogan. I stole it and parroted it as my own yesterday on the news. That's why they're doing it in June. 2 months to, if he face plants, 2 months to replace old Joe.
That's Newsmax host Rob Finnerty with former Trump campaign spokesperson Hogan Gidley and political analyst Mark Halperin right before that on Wake Up America. President Biden, meanwhile, spent the weekend addressing black voters. He spoke at Moorehouse College, an HBCU in Atlanta, where many of the graduates turned their back on the president's address, and then he spoke at the NAACP in Detroit.
It's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's why I've called for an immediate ceasefire. An immediate ceasefire to stop the fighting. Bring the hostages home.
Bring the hostages home. Okay. And as for the debates, there has been a lot of talk and criticism, as you know, as to why there would be a June debate to begin with. Why so early? Many people saying, so if Biden flops on the stage, there would still be time for him to recover, right? I know Chris Salcedo talked about that back on Friday's Daily with Kay Smythe, but think about what Hogan Gidley just said. It makes a lot of sense. You most likely didn't see it, but former Ohio governor and Republican presidential candidate John Kasich, who, by the way, endorsed Joe Biden, made a similar comment on MSNBC about Joe Biden not being the nominee, which completely stunned the host. So if you believe the reports that Democrats are secretly trying to get rid of Joe, this makes a lot of sense, right? And if you've been listening to the Newsmax Daily for some time, you've heard me say months ago that I didn't think Joe would make it to the election. I still think there's a good chance that Michelle Obama becomes the Democrats' nominee. Even the Democrats know if they end up replacing Joe with California Governor Gavin Newsom, they have absolutely no chance. Newsom cemented his fate with his $20 an hour mandatory pay for fast food workers, which is putting restaurants out of business every day, leading to workers making no money at all instead of making more money. Another story dominating the weekend shows on every network is the commencement speech by Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker. Of course, different networks are looking at it from different angles. Here's our Lidia Curanaj breaking it down on Sunday Agenda.
Butker's speech it's now causing controversy across the country, across the world, simply because he spoke the truth.
Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally.
Is he wrong? Joe Biden, he claims to not only be a Catholic, he says he carries rosary beads in his pocket. The truth is this, Joe, you can't be a Catholic and yet advocate, run your campaign on the issue of murdering unborn babies. In Butker's 20-minute speech, the Super Bowl champion also scored on another point when he called out another hypocritical Catholic, Dr. Fauci.
From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it.
No, it doesn't. Just like a man can't call himself a woman just because he says so, you can't say you follow Christ and yet contribute to the confusion of gender ideology and science above all. But it's Butker's next statement that really outraged the left.
The deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify him.
There's now a Change.org petition demanding the Kansas City Chiefs dismiss Butker. More than 200,000 people have already signed it. Many other organizations like the NFL have also disavowed his speech. The petition writes in part, quote, his comments were sexist, homophobic, anti-trans, anti-abortion, and racist. Hello? The Catholic Church, among many other religions, believes that acting on homosexual urges is a sin. Don't blame him, blame the church doctrine. Why are we demonizing this man? People want, people like Butker to lose their jobs, their livelihoods for simply professing their faith? Is this America, or is this now a communist regime?
Newsmax host Lidia Curanaj. The NFL did release a statement that read in part, that Butker's views are not those of the NFL as an organization, and that the NFL reaffirms its commitment to inclusion. Outside of his religious beliefs and comments, this comment also created a firestorm.
I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
Once again, he's not wrong, and almost like on cue, you hear the baby crying there. Never once did Butker say that a woman's career wasn't important. He never said women shouldn't get an education. He applauded them. Never said a woman's only vocation in life is to be a mother. In fact, he elevated women throughout his speech, almost kind of like a love letter to his wife. I mean, just take a listen to what he said about her.
I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Does that sound like a man to you who has zero respect for women? Quite the opposite. Here are the facts. The mother, the wife, she is the foundation of every home. And it's a role that I take pride in. And while I love my career as a Catholic woman of faith, the source of my true joy is my faith and, of course, my family. And as I began writing this, I worried, there could be some backlash. And then I realized, I hope there is. Because if we truly want to solve the world's problems, we must first have an important conversation with ourselves.
Again, that's Newsmax host Lidia Curanaj on Sunday Agenda. Amid all of the anger and outrage over this intelligent, well-educated, well-spoken, and grounded Super Bowl champion athlete, there is evidence that America hasn't gone completely off the cliff. Harrison Butker's jersey has quickly become the top-selling NFL jersey in the country. And I mentioned this at the open, but once again, the news cycle is being dominated today by the former president's criminal trial in New York, which resumed with more cross-examination of Michael Cohen. This is Judge Andrew Napolitano.
If I were Todd Blanche and Donald Trump says to me on Monday morning, put me on the stand, I'd put some hot peppers in his sandwich at lunch to give him an upset stomach. So he has to leave the courtroom. So he can't go on the witness stand because the last thing in the world, forgive me, Mr. President, the last thing in the world you want is for Donald Trump unhinged under oath on a witness stand in his own case where he's the defendant.
That's not going to happen, right?
I don't think
They're
so.
not gonna call
Okay. They are really, really, really going to give him unanimous and strong advice. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. Trust us.
Assuming the jury gets this case next week, which it seems like that is certainly, we could have a verdict by this time next week.
I hope so, because you don't really want a long 3-day holiday vacation, which we have next weekend because of Memorial Day,
So,
to intrude into a critical part of this
when
case.
you look at a New York City jury, again, Joe Biden won 90% of the jurisdiction. Can this ideologically narrow-minded group of people, these 12 jurors, can they really give Donald Trump a fair shake here?
Well, they all said under oath they can, and Todd Blanche signed off on all 12 of them at the time they said it. And in my opinion, I know there's been a lot of criticism of the judge. He shouldn't be on the case. His wife's a Democrat. His daughter raises money off it. I get all that. His demeanor in the courtroom has been very fair and very professional.
I want to ask you, Senator Bob Menendez, obviously also on trial. We haven't talked a lot about that. We've been talking about
with a U.S. Senator on trial.
Yeah,
also.
right. We have a U.S. Senator on trial. This defense that he's trying for, very unusual.
So he's got two defenses here. One is, I'm afraid of banks and that they might confiscate my cash. So I accumulate, rather than put $450,000 in the bank, I put it in my jacket pocket, in my closet, and in the safe in my home. The other is, I'm not sure about this, but my wife may have done it. These are two very, very abnormal, unusual defenses. How would a juror feel that a guy is throwing his wife under the bus? Okay, his wife's a defendant as well. If Bob is acquitted, if Senator Menendez is acquitted, and he doesn't take the stand in his case, and then his wife is tried in September, guess what he can do? He can get on the stand in her defense and say, I did it.
Judge, he's still running for re-election.
And they can't prosecute him because he already will have been acquitted, and double jeopardy prohibits that second prosecution.
Yeah, the Menendez legal team tried to, this was their opening argument. They said that because Bob's parents were immigrants in the 50s from Cuba, that because of culturally, that's why he stuffs money under his mattress and keeps gold bars in his wife's closet. That's why. I don't know if that works.
I don't know that it works either, but in order to bridge that gap, they tried to get a shrink, a psychiatrist, to testify to it. The judge said, no way, this is not a recognized scientific area of testimony.
Former New Jersey judge and Newsmax senior judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano on Wake Up America. Obviously, the first ever criminal trial of a former president is going to be a much bigger story than a bribery trial of a senator, especially when that former president is named Donald Trump, right? But have you heard anything? Have you heard anything about the Senator Menendez bribery trial anywhere other than on Newsmax? And let's wrap it up with another Cuban-American senator who isn't on trial or facing charges. This is Florida Senator and former presidential candidate Marco Rubio on Meet the Press yesterday, and this is classic.
Immigration. If reelected, Donald Trump has said he's willing to build migrant detention camps and deploy the U.S. military to deport the more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. It would be the largest deportation operation in American history. Do you support that plan?
11 million. That's an outdated. That was the number 10 years ago. We're talking upwards of 20, 25, maybe 30 million. Well, there's been almost 10 million people that have entered this country unlawfully in the last 3 years.
To the question, would you support it?
The number varies big time. I mean, it's another 9 to 10 million people just in the last 3 years. The answer to your question is yes. We cannot absorb 25, 30 million people who entered this country illegally. They're here illegally. What country on earth would tolerate that? We don't even know who most of these people are. They talk about vetting them with what? They're coming from nations that don't even have document systems in many cases. Yes, we are going to have to do something, unfortunately. We're going to have to do something dramatic to remove people from this country that are here illegally, especially people we know nothing about. But 10 million, 11 million, that was the number 15 years ago. Today, it's upwards of probably 25 to 30 million, maybe more.
Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000. Every single one.
No Democrat has refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. Senator, will you accept the election results?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed. We have Democrats now.
Senator, she conceded the election.
She said that Trump was illegitimate. She said that the election had been stolen. Kamala Harris agreed. By the way, there are Democrats serving in Congress today who in 2004 voted not to certify the Ohio electors because they said those machines had been tampered with. And you have Democrats now saying they won't certify 2024 because Trump is an insurrectionist and ineligible to hold office. So you need to ask them. I think have you ever asked the Democrat this question on your show? I bet you've never asked a Democrat that question.
Are Donald Trump's claims undermining Americans' confidence in democracy, given that he has not conceded the last election, and he just said in recent days twice that he won Minnesota, Senator?
I think what undermines people's confidence in the election is when you have places like Wisconsin with over 500 illegal drop box locations, when you have places like Georgia where liberal groups are paying people $10 per vote. No, but listen, what undermines elections is when NBC News and every major news outlet in America in 2020 censored the Biden laptop story, which turned out to be true, not Russian misinformation, unprecedented. Only you couldn't even talk about it on social media. They would deplatform you.
Florida Senator and potential vice presidential candidate Marco Rubio on Meet the Press. On Wall Street, slightly green numbers as the market opened at record highs this morning with the Dow Industrials above 40,000. Marquee earnings from several key retailers like Home Depot and Target, home builders, and AI leader NVIDIA is what will be driving the markets this week. NVIDIA is the big one. That's after the markets closed on Wednesday, so Thursday could be a wild one. Keep up with all of the news all day and night long on Newsmax, beginning each day with Wake Up America, and make sure you're streaming on the Newsmax Plus app. If not, go to newsmaxplus.com, get signed up. You can also get a free trial. Newsmax Plus Plus includes all of your favorite shows and hosts with fantastic analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, law professor Alan Dershowitz, Judge Napolitano. There's documentary, special programming, and much more. NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Share it with your friends and family. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.